All right. Hello and welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us via streaming, my name is Julie Lenzerkirk. Julie Lenzer, boy, that Kirk, I lost the Kirk a long time ago. But I am, sorry, old speaking habits. I am the Chief Innovation Officer at the University of Maryland, and I'm also the founding director of the Quantum Startup Foundry. And so earlier we showed a video that our Maryland Department of Commerce did for us about the quantum. And so they've been a big supporter of this summit as a sponsor, but they're also a supporter of the TraQtion program. And for those of you who are able to join us in our showcase, these 4 companies are our initial cohort of TraQtion. We have many more in the pipeline, but these awesome companies are the ones we're starting with. And so I'd like to invite Vince DeFrancisci as Maryland Department of Commerce. He's going to moderate a panel with our presenters. So Vince.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I am the government guy here. I'm the dead ringer, you know, with the tie, suit, and the Maryland badge. So I just wanted to say hello. Thank you, Julie. Oh, sorry, I do have to talk into this. My role with the Department of Commerce is inside of what we call the Office of Strategic Industries and Entrepreneurship, and I'm the Director for Cybersecurity and Aerospace. We don't have a designated quantum office yet, so right now it's under me in cybersecurity. And I guess I should start out by saying on behalf of our governor, Governor Hogan, and our Secretary of Commerce, Kelly Schultz, welcome. This is a great event. And Commerce supports, as Julie was mentioning, the Foundry and initiatives that help to create an ecosystem within the state to build new industries, attract companies, retain companies. So I just wanted to set the stage for that. Think of Department of Commerce as the business development arm for the state. So a couple of things that I'm going to do is ask some questions to prompt the discussion with the panel. But please raise your hand. I want this to be, don't wait till the end. Just raise your hand if you've got a question. I've just got a few that I've got plugged in. So, but before I get started, I'm going to just give a pitch for the state. So people often ask, you know, why Maryland? Why is Maryland a good ecosystem for quantum or cybersecurity? And I would say the number one thing that I always say is we have a really sophisticated customer base here. We have customers that are very well educated in the realms of technology, advanced technology. We have 70 federal agencies, plus or minus a few. 20 plus of those are Department of Defense agencies. So I would say that, you know, we have a base here for you to work with. And I will give Worley a little thumbs up on his advice about advocating for yourselves as the industry matures and using because I'm a space guy, I come from the space industry before I joined Commerce. ITAR, is anybody familiar with that term? It's a dreaded term in the satellite industry. Don't let ITAR happen to quantum, right? And just recently, I mean, it took from the 60s until mid-2014, 15 for the State Department to ease up on some of those ITAR policies and regulations. So that's just a heads up. Anyway, let me get started with a few questions. Then I'm going to prompt the group, and then please just interrupt, raise your hand. So I'm just going to open this up to the panel, try and get perspectives about, you know, first, who you see as your customers, you know, or potential customers as the case may be. You know, where are they coming from? And then we can add on to that, you know, what you see when you talk to them, what their needs are or their concerns, questions. So I'll just open it up with that. Anybody? Anybody can raise their hand and answer that one. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you for the question. So we see two kinds of customers. We see customers that have decided that quantum is strategic for them. And what they typically do is they set up an exploratory team. A bunch of guys, they go around the company and say, oh, quantum could do optimization, and quantum could do this, and quantum could do that. Who's got an interesting use case? And then they do proof of concepts, usually to compare the performance of quantum with things that they can already do. The reason is that today's quantum algorithms can run on simulators, so it's comparable in the complexity. So that's one type of customers. And they need help figuring out how to implement these proof of concepts, how to run through them quickly, how to select the right hardware provider, how to test it on different hardware, and so on. Then there's the other type of customers, those who are still on the fence. They read the Gartner report that says quantum is the next big thing. They want to get into it, but is it time for me? Is it not time for me? How do I get started? What kind of environment do I choose? Both types of customers are serious companies in all walks of life, and we're happy to serve them.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, thank you. I spoke about this in my presentation earlier about our customer, and I tend to prefer the term client, which implies a kind of a different type of relationship than just selling something to someone, and perhaps even a fiduciary responsibility to a client that you wouldn't have to a customer. But our customer, QuantFi's customers are, strictly speaking, in financial service firms that are looking for products that can solve financial problems. But I would even broader, and I think it's important at this stage in the quantum industry, because we're at such a beginning stage, that we look more broadly at who is a customer, who is a client, and look at universities, collaborators, looking at hardware companies that we might partner with. And there may not be a financial or a profitable financial relationship with them, so I hesitate to call them customers. But in a less strict sense of the word, I think we have to think broadly about who are our customers, clients at this stage in the industry. And it really needs to be very collaborative. Mm-hmm. I'm not competing for clients with people. Maybe someone is telling me I should, but I'm not. I'm looking for collaborations. I'm looking for clients who want to work with us, but I'm not looking to just ka-ching and compete in an industry that's this new.
Okay. Anybody else?
So,
yes, please.
Yeah. Our potential customers are mostly research institutes, government labs, and also big players like Google, IBM, Microsoft, obviously. The challenge there is most of our potential customers are still not ready to scale. They're happy doing experiments with a few qubits. And the other thing is that they want to stick with the current hardware that they have. For us, it's a bit too early, I would say, and because the scaling is not really there. So that's our main challenge.
Thank you. Thanks. Following up on that, I'm curious, I look for analogies between this industry and other industries. And, in certain cases, small companies, startups have had success working with larger companies, whether that be defense contractors or other larger companies where you could present your offering as part of a broader holistic solution. Has anyone had some success? You mentioned Google and some of those. Has anybody on the panel want to share any other stories about working with larger industry players? And we have MITRE here and IBM and Ernst & Young, so I'm opening it up to kind of feed that.
No, maybe if I jump in here, so that's definitely one of our goals. This is eventually what we want to do. We are very good. We are a team of scientists, engineers. We're very good at developing these hardwares in smaller scales. Like right now, we have customers, but we literally build them ourselves. Like our senior scientists, our engineers actually build these devices one by one. We don't really see ourselves as a company that wants to become like this manufacturer and this distributor to make like thousands, if not tens of or hundreds of thousands of these devices to distribute them. There are already companies like, for example, Cisco out there who can do this job perfectly. Their experience is how to do this mass manufacturing, how to reduce the cost, how to make them much more plug and play. So for us, what matters the most is to not to show that these devices work together very well, but also to work with companies like Cisco, BT, other Verizon, even like Toshiba, Ericsson. So many of them are coming into the field of quantum communication, which we care more about. And we do these partnerships and collaborations with each other for a while to show that, hey, these devices are not only good, but also they are like integrable. You can integrate them into your infrastructures, engage their interest until they realize that, okay, maybe this is the stage for them to take this device and really turn it into something that is extremely scalable, cheap, affordable, and you can scale it up and use it for like decades out there without too much of like engineering challenges.
Any of the large companies present want to comment on how you might work with smaller companies, the startups, the incubators? We can get to that eventually if nobody has a comment on that. But being involved, as I am, in the cybersecurity industry here in Maryland on a daily basis, I'm curious to see about any intersection between quantum and cyber. And if you've had any thoughts on that, any experiences on that, open it up to the audience as well, because I think there's some promise there, and just on your thoughts there.
I mean, clearly for large financial institutions, security is a really big issue, and they're just starting to investigate options for if are they willing to put their data on the cloud, for example, something simple as that, or so how could they get involved in quantum computing and use quantum computers without taking that step. So it's a challenge. And so what we're trying to do as a software company is kind of align ourselves with post-quantum cryptography firms, for example, to have options to provide to clients. So again, we talk about customers and clients. Well, I think strategic alliances are important at this stage. And we're right in the middle of this process of finding cryptography companies, cybersecurity companies that we can effectively partner with and provide a more unified solution to clients who worry as much maybe about security, data integrity, know your customer, fraud detection. These are all things that we don't do yet as a software company solving financial problems, but are critically important, as important perhaps as what we do to these very large companies.
Thank you. Thanks. Any comments about that in the audience about the intersection of cyber and quantum's impact on the development of cyber tools? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Thank you. Sounds like that's an opportunity. That's good. Thanks. Anybody else on that topic? Yes, sir. Sure. It's nice to meet you in person for the first time, John, after a year of being here with Commerce. Thank you. Thank you. A topic that comes up in many industries is talent, and it came up today, and talent at different levels. And I'm curious to see within the quantum realm efforts that we might need or help promote in developing talent at what I'd call all levels of the spectrum, not just the PhD and master's degree students. And we have the same discussion, by the way, in the cybersecurity industry, where on any given day in the state of Maryland, there are 20,000 open positions in cyber and information security and the related fields for cybersecurity. So I'm curious to know about what we can do in developing talent at multiple spectrums, a broad range of talent within cybersecurity, within quantum, excuse me. And I'll open that up to the panel first, and then if you have comments, please. It's something that as a state, we all wrestle with to find programs that can help promote and attract talent and develop talent for the next generation workforce.
We see three directions. First, obviously, a lot of the major universities, Harvard, Caltech, and others are starting quantum-focused education, so they will churn out more people who are quantum literate. And that's good. It's not going to be enough. All of a sudden, a few years ago, if you had a physics PhD, you didn't know what to do with it, and now there's a hot market for that.
Yeah.
So that's one. The other is there is a lot of interest from people who are just entering college or in a senior year of high school. So how do I get into quantum? And we want to help them. IBM's doing a great job with all the Qiskit universities. We published an article, and hey, you want to get into quantum, here are the 6 things you should really get into. But I think the solution that's even bigger is how do you make it more accessible to a wider range of people? And just to draw the analogy, if I design a web page today, I don't have to understand how a microprocessor works or how a CMOS junction works. And so creating a software platform like we do that says you could be a finance expert, you could be a chemistry expert, you could be a defense expert, you could do really useful, high-end, sophisticated work in quantum without understanding what a Hadamard gate is. That's really good, and I think that that abstraction is the third way to solve that talent shortage, to make it more accessible.
And I think demystifying what it means. So when we talk to, middle school kids about cybersecurity, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to have a job within the cybersecurity field? So in quantum, what would it mean to participate in a company that is a quantum hardware or quantum software, algorithms, quantum communications? What does that mean? So I think as an industry, as it develops into more of a mature industry, we need help from you understanding that and transmitting that information to kids, to the next gen. Yes, sir.
Hold the mic. Thank you. John Joaquin with IBM. And I would echo that IBM is interested in developing workforce and talent in this space. And, we have a lot of programs for technical people, but we're also investing in a diverse workforce through our HBCU interests and efforts. around quantum technology for, again, a more diverse community. So we are doing that at Bowie State, Morgan State, Coppin State here in the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
So, and we're also partnering to a certain extent with an effort out of Morgan State for the National Quantum Literacy Network, which is a kind of a nascent effort, but it's really targeting, below the physics level people and building a supply chain for other type of workers that are adjacent in these markets. So a lot of efforts going on.
Great. That's what it takes. Good to meet you for the first time too, John. Thank you. Yeah.
Larry.
Yeah, right. Ma'am.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chloe Holzinger. I'm from the Engine, a venture capital firm up in Boston, Massachusetts. And I guess I'm curious, to kind of turn the question back on you.
Sure.
Of what is Maryland doing to help support the creation of this talent pool, whether by sponsoring internships or providing physical resources or subsidies and whatnot. What does the state provide?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for that. So I would say one of the things that Maryland does pretty well, especially under the current administration, the Hogan administration, something was just announced last week, is over $3 million program to incentivize businesses in apprenticeship programs and a wide range of apprenticeship programs. But I would say that the internship and apprenticeship programs, and that usually falls under the Department of Labor in a state versus the Department of Commerce. But the point is, we realize that those hands-on experiences, and especially apprentices, because those are usually 7 months to a year long, not just a summer camp kind of a thing. So that's one of the things that we try to do. How do we incentivize businesses to participate in those programs and then make the funds available through the legislative process to have a budget to do that? So I think we've done a fair job at that.
My name is Amanda Stein. I am Senior Director of External Relations for the Quantum Technology Center here at the University of Maryland. So to add to that, the University of Maryland specifically is very interested in the educational programs related to quantum as well. And we're working on not only a quantum minor, but hopefully one day a quantum major and maybe more way down the road. But the University of Maryland specifically and the state of Maryland and USM are very, very interested in how do we create the next generation of workforce? How do we prepare people at both at the undergraduate level and at the graduate level to be successful and have successful careers? And so at QTC and through MQA as well, we've got partnership programs that these are the folks who are hiring our students, going out into the internships and out into the job market. And I don't know if you know, but the Joint Quantum Institute has been way established here at the University of Maryland, and we're one of the top 5, I want to say, quantum schools in the nation. So we have a really robust workforce coming out of University of Maryland, and our faculty is world-class. And so our students here are being very prepared for that and really contributing to the economy of the state of Maryland and going all over. Of course, we try to keep them in Maryland,
Sure.
but sometimes it doesn't happen.
That is the object, yeah.
But we can definitely say that the University of Maryland is very much committed to quantum education as well.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that information. That's great. And I will say, advocacy by an industry really was what gets things done within a government, right? Government's not advocating for itself or its own programs. So as an industry, as you advocate for things, workforce development programs, education programs, they are one way to really get things done. So for example, again, I keep bringing up cybersecurity because I think there's a crossroads there, there's an intersection, and that's what I spend a lot of time on. For example, the National Security Agency just up the road funds all sorts of middle school and high school programs throughout the year, summer camps. So we'd like to see something like that in the quantum arena as well. So, keep those thoughts coming on how we can better develop that next generation in quantum computing. And then we need the push from industry to talk to your local legislators. So that's where the money comes from, actually. All right. Yes.
Yeah, Vincent, I just want to quickly chime in. I mentioned this earlier a little bit. The search for talent, recruiting for quantum is one of the most important topics now as this industry matures. I think we know that PhD programs are not going to produce enough quantum scientists to meet demand. So what do? Well, one thing other ecosystems have tried to do is expand academic programs to master's degrees, even undergraduate programs. MIT and Harvard, at the undergraduate level, they set up these clubs for quantum students interested in quantum to engage with each other, to talk to perhaps professors. Then there's executive education, and that's something we're focused on as a company in terms of filling in the gaps. So banks are generally our clients. You know, if you're a 45-year-old quant working for Morgan Stanley, are you going to go back to school? Are you going to go take a PhD and take 4 years to graduate and you have a job? You know, you want to learn more about quantum science. You have something you think you could offer the bank, your employer, but you're not going to give up that job at your age to necessarily get a PhD. So there has to be alternatives, and it looks like it's going to have to be a combination of different initiatives.
Yeah, if I may also add something, I just want to emphasize a little bit on the things Amanda said, because I think there was something very important there. I really don't think there is any shortage of talent, nor nowadays shortage of jobs for them. But we do have a shortage of the bridge, the people, the person who knows the talent and knows the jobs that can bring them together. Like for us, for example, if I want to hire a quantum physicist, by tomorrow I can have 10 CVs or 10 people in front of me. I know everyone, yeah, but if I want to hire like a full stack developer or AI scientist or FPGA programmers, it would take me 3 months. I don't know where they are, like how to find them. I just have to post something on LinkedIn, and startups in our stage are still really not close with recruiters and stuff like this. We don't have the funds. We don't have a lot of the budget requirements for like going out there to really get. But like we actually have like a couple of my scientists are from JQI, so when we wanted to hire at some point, the very first name they told me is that like there is Amanda at JQI, you should send like the job description to her. She knows how to find people. But the problem is that we don't have enough people like her in all universities. Like I'm from Stony Brook. I don't know anyone in Stony Brook that I could send like CVs to and like job descriptions to, and they understand what we do. They understand their team, their talents, and they can connect to. So if universities and research institutions have just a little bit more resources like this, that could be enough to just have this bridge between the talent and the need.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Maureen.
So I've worked with a number of incubators in the state of Maryland, and I would also like to advocate for the small businesses that go to those incubators, if they could have access to the internships, and you know, if the state could help attract startup internship opportunities there and support that, because startups don't have money to hire, but they're great places for students to get exposed to quantum, to hypersonics, to all the exciting different great technologies, cybersecurity that are going in Maryland. So just wanted to advocate for that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate that. I have a question for, well, the panel and the audience. So we're sitting in sort of the hotbed of government contracting here. And we, the largest funders that I see on the government side in quantum computing are the Department of Defense, the Department of Energy, and the National Science Foundation. And not everybody wants to be a government contractor. I get it. I've been one for a long time, and it's not easy. But I'm curious to know if you see working with each other, whether those small businesses working with small working with large, put together teams to pursue grant funding for something like Maureen just mentioned, or research and development. So I'm just curious to see if anybody has had success doing that. Sir. I knew I'd find at least one.
Yeah, Rob Hayes from Atom Computing. We recently got a phase 2 grant through the NSF that we did in conjunction with University of Washington, which was the PI, and Sandia National Labs to develop some optical lattices and things that we can use in the future.
Oh, great. Congratulations. Good. Anybody else? Any other stories along those lines?
Yeah, this is Alex Khan. Before working with QuantFi, I was also working with Chicago Quantum, and we had submitted a proposal to an SBIR, so that's a government grant.
Yes.
I think for us as a startup, the process was somewhat very new, and we didn't get the funding. But I think it wasn't, the topics were not broad enough. So in other words, if I'm working on financial portfolio optimization, which is more of a user level type of research, I mean, at least we considered it research, I think the government institutions are looking for something more specific and maybe more technical. And I think maybe that there might be a gap there where, if there are grants available for different kinds of use cases, that would be helpful.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, it sometimes takes a number of companies working together to propose on some of these grants, because it's not insignificant putting together a proposal for a federal government grant. So if you've got some strength in numbers there and some talent that can help with that, I think that would just be my advice. Anything else? Yes, sir.
The governments are indeed the largest funder of quantum computing right now. We did a little survey. 25 countries have put in about $25 billion in funding for quantum. And so there are a lot of national programs, and they do need consortium. So we submitted to the Israeli national program and some of the European programs and so on, because they're looking for best-of-breed companies, not necessarily for those that are in Switzerland or are
Sure. Yeah.
and so I would echo your comments that I think it's a great way to apply and form the relationships and also get funding to continue the work that we do.
Great. Well, I've been informed that I've been cut off, so it's time for the next one. Thanks a lot for participation of the audience. Thanks for your participation and comments. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.